This is somebody who definitely does not need an introduction, but I have to note that she's in the Oswego State Athletics Hall of Fame, as well as the Jewish Hall of Fame. But you might know her as the ESPN anchor, the legendary anchor, I might add to that. Welcome to the show, Linda Cohn. It's an absolute honor to have you on here.
Oh, Johnny, thanks for the great intro. Kind words. Really appreciate your interest, and it's my pleasure to be on.
So for you, I have to imagine just everything we've been through in the last year and a half with COVID, and now with the NHL coming back to ESPN and TNT. I've said it a couple times on here, but this has to be the most anticipated NHL season in the last 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's back to normal, right? Yeah, normal being back on ESPN for the first time in 17 years. And also 82 game schedule. So there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of great storylines. I'm really excited because, I was one of the few, the hockey community has reminded me, and I really appreciate that I kept the light burning. In fact, and most of the time I held the torch and led the way while hockey was not with ESPN. And so just kind of kept it alive as best as we could. But now that ESPN has it back on its family of networks, I mean, the young people like yourself, Johnny, they don't know what's going to hit them. When we tell stories, we'll bring out personalities, everything that the NHL needs, ESPN will deliver on. And it was a wonderful, wonderful a day when I found out the leader of the worldwide leader, Jimmy Pitaro, sat down with Gary Bettman and made it happen. And real hockey fans won't be disappointed. Casual hockey fans won't be disappointed. And the best part of this is that ESPN is going to grow the sport, grow that fan base to people who really have never seen a hockey game, don't know who Connor McDavid is, whatever it is, they are going to reach out. My employers really think the two big issues here, Johnny, not issues, but missions, is growing the game, making it more diverse, and also, telling stories, right? Telling stories, not reciting the obvious to the viewer.
Well, speaking of telling stories, I mean, I got to give a shout out to Emily Kaplan, good friend of mine, and connected us. But you guys have done an awesome job on In the Crease, the newest ESPN hockey podcast. I've listened to all 3 episodes. I've been a big fan so far, and you can just tell from the interviews with Stamkos, Doughty, and Gibson that the personalities that we have in the game now are just so beyond different to what the personalities were like 10 to 15 years ago. So I'm sure a lot of people ask you how the game has changed, but how has covering the game changed for you? Because it's not the same now. Like these kids are it's just not where it was 20 years ago.
Yeah. And you know what? We see that in a lot of sports. We see it in the NFL where these young quarterbacks are drafted, in the top 20 or the top 15 of an NFL draft, and they're expected to perform instantly. Well, you know what? The NHL has kind of taken a page from that because we see these young kids. One of the great interviews Emily and I did was with, I'm just using as an example, New Jersey Devils center, Jack Hughes.
He's a great kid.
It was a wake-up call. He's a great kid. In our latest episode, which we actually, while I'm talking to you, Johnny, we taped our latest episode of In the Crease, and I wanted to spotlight Jack Hughes, and I rolled some a part of our interview, and he used the word, it was a wake-up call. That rookie season was like, whoa, wow, this is the NHL. Oh my God. He scored only 7 goals. And then last year, of course, had a much better season, felt more comfortable, got that confidence back. And now he's looking to break out. And I really believe he will. And he's one of a young leader, and he's only 20 years old, and he's about to enter his 3rd year in the National Hockey League. So that's to your point. The other thing that has changed in the league, again, for the better, is the speed of the game with guys like Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. They are like human highlight reels nightly. And it is just so exciting. And to be there in person, it's just the old adage for someone who doesn't know how great the game is, you got to see a game in person. That has not changed. In fact, you really need to see a game in person more than you've ever needed to see a game in person. So you can really kind of feel that speed of this game and the hard hitting. It has it all. And I always, preach that people who didn't grow up hockey fans, who don't have an emotional connection, but if they love the NFL, if they love UFC, because of course that's a younger audience, people grew up with UFC, then they will love the NHL. And so, ESPN, whether it's telling stories about, each player behind the scenes, whatever it is, just amazing journeys, It's also going to be highlighting the game in different ways, technically, things that you're going to see in each and every broadcast that you haven't seen before in any of the previous networks. Plus, we're really excited to bring, the hockey fan, all of the games, like on ESPN Plus, all the out-of-market games. It's so cheap. What is it, $5 a month for ESPN Plus, and get everything on it? Something crazy. And it's like, comes out to be 6 cents a hockey game for the season. So it is the best bargain in town. And, that way you can grow the game as well, because people who normally won't see Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, or they normally don't see Mark Stone of the Vegas Golden Knights, or they normally don't see, whoever it is, even if it is the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion, Tampa Bay Lightning. And, you can't watch Nikita Kucherov, well, you can on ESPN Plus. So it's really tremendous access to the game.
I think a big thing too, when you talk about hockey culture also, is just off the ice. And I know the Arizona Coyotes took a step in the right direction today, announcing that they're not going to enforce the suit rule. And for me, I'm very excited to watch the Phil Kessel content walking through the tunnel for pregame.
Yeah.
he's gonna have some good outfits, or maybe, just throw on some shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops and walk to the rink. But I mean, a lot of people who don't watch the game use the excuse of, I don't recognize them in the helmets, and like, now I think it's so great to have that off the ice. And what's funny to me, like, I saw on Instagram the other day, the New York Islanders and New Jersey Devils were both at the Jets game. And something that we see in other sports is like Taylor Lewan going to a Predators game and ripping his jersey off and downing beers. Like, hockey players just aren't like that. Do you think it'll ever get to a point where, maybe a 22, 23-year-old kid is going to go to an NBA game courtside and down his beer like Baker Mayfield does at a Cleveland Indians game, or whatever their team name is now?
Yeah, I'll start at the beginning of your statement, because you brought up the word culture. And again, this is this dress code that Arizona Coyotes got rid of, and kudos to them. I talked about it in our latest episode of In the Crease with Emily Kaplan, because I loved it. I tweeted out, I said, the haters out there rip hockey players because they say they have no personality. Well, this is a step in the right direction, right? To show off that personality with the way they dress. This is not the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And it cracked me up, because a lot of young hockey fans disagreed with us, Johnny. And they think, oh, no, hockey players don't have to do that. They don't have to be like the NBA. And as for their downing a beer, I'm okay if they don't down a beer. I don't care what they do. I like that they're at least recognized, at these games. But that's part of the culture, right? Because, I think, it is no secret that these players hear from the GMs, hear from the coaches, and they put a little bug in there and they say, hey, tone it down a little. That still goes on. Still goes on. I don't buy it. I mean, unless, especially if it's anything they're doing is legal. I mean, let them be them. Let them be, those personalities shine. So I love what the Arizona Coyotes are doing. And by the way, the haters who's like, oh, Linda, that's just because nobody cares about the Arizona Coyotes, so they're doing this. BS. That's not the truth. And by the way, even if it is, and that's the method to their madness, who cares? Yeah. They're allowed to do it. They're doing what they want to do. And if now you know who the Arizona Coyotes are and you didn't know that team existed before, that's a win.
No, I completely agree. And I think it's going to get a lot of good attention. I think people are going to follow their lead. I know a lot of people do take pride in their suits and everything, but it can only bring in more money for players too if they're having companies sponsor their clothing to walk down in the tunnel and, all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah, and they need to make money, Johnny. I mean, the league needs to make money. All these leagues need to make money. They lost so much money because of the whole COVID crazy. And the good news is they can still wear their suits and ties if that's what they prefer.
Yeah. And I actually want to talk about your playing career a little bit. I know you were a goalie at Oswego, and I played college hockey myself, but for you as a goalie, if the NHL were to ever have a celebrity game for All-Star Weekend, because I know other sports do that, would you ever suit up the pads? And what other celebrities would you want in that game with you?
Yeah. Yes, I would suit up the pads. I need about 30 days notice to get in and get a little more flexibility to me. And I got to get my goal, because now I wear glasses full time, and I didn't when I played goal. So I
don't say sports goggles. Don't say sports goggles.
I know. What do I wear, Johnny? I mean, I got to make sure my goalie mask with a cage fits over the glasses, but I need to protect the glasses. So if I get hit, the glasses don't, all that kind of stuff. I got to figure that out. So when that happens, and who would I want to play with? Oh my gosh. Oh, the list is endless. where do I begin? I mean, I don't know. Whoever, first of all, can clear my crease and get the pucks out and when I let up juicy rebounds, that's number one. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. Anyone from Tom Brady, I'd love to see him on. I know I've seen Gronk on skates, but I'd love to have Tom Brady on my team anytime, the greatest of all time. And, you know, it doesn't matter. Whoever wants to play and be on my team would be great. But I think that's a great idea. And they better ask me if they do have a celebrity game.
Yeah, I had Steve Mayer on here and I mentioned it to him. But I know I know because like Justin Bieber plays.
Yeah, what did he say?
He said it's a good idea, but it might be hard to execute. And I said I'll help you if you need. But
good answer.
Exactly,
good answer, Johnny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And something I'm also curious about to hear from you. I know from Emily that you're a big Kiss fan. And
yes.
My days actually playing for the Long Island Edge when the parents would come in and dress us up. The two songs that were repeatedly on in the locker room were Heaven's on Fire and Calling Dr. Love. Those were like the two songs I remember in the locker room growing up. But I want to know what you think of the music in the NHL now, because it's all like that house EDM. I can't even get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, back when the Rangers were making that run and I see the great Brian Leetch jersey back there, the Hall of Famer, Conn Smythe winner, 1994, one of the greatest nights of every Rangers fan's life. But you know, when they made that other run in 2014 to the Stanley Cup final, a lot of EDM, but it helped me get into EDM. And I love all genres. I mean, I love country music. I love Kiss because my son and I, who's 25, we bond over Kiss. We've seen them multiple times in concert. We don't wear the makeup, but I love Paul Stanley. I'd like Paul Stanley to play in our celebrity NHL game, by the way, too. If we can make that happen, Johnny, since I'm hiring you to,
Deal.
I don't care what Steve Mayer says. I mean, let's make that happen. But I know he's like in his 70s, but he looks great. So yeah, I mean, you know, I think you can go anywhere with the music. And of course, you know, the two biggest genres in North America are hip hop and country music. So, I mean, but I cannot ignore classic rock or alternative as well. So I think you can mix it up, but I do love Kiss. And yes, those are two good songs. I think Gene Simmons sings lead on both those. I actually love Paul Stanley led songs like, so Love Gun. You know, I was asked once, what would be the craziest song? People would be shocked to hear that you have on your Spotify list. And you know what? I should have said Love Gun, but I said, I Think I Love You by Partridge Family, which is also shocking. Yeah, it's really, you should Google it. It's an old song, but Love Gun, great. And yeah, so, but you're Heaven on Fire and it's all good. Well, any Kiss song is great.
Have you seen the movie Role Models?
Yeah, great scene.
Yeah, you must love that. Yeah.
Yeah. The greatest scene ever, who people don't get. Kiss.
Well, I guess
love that you knew that.
Oh, of course. Kiss My Anthea. That was like their name. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the best shit ever. Well, I was gonna say if they do a Halloween game this year for the NHL, and you got to get up in a Kiss costume in between the glass.
I know. It's just great. I would love it. I just love them. They're great. I'm telling you. And their show, it's all amazing. You should just follow Kiss online, and they always play clips from their shows, and fantastic. And it's just great to go to live concerts again. I'm going to see a couple of concerts with my daughter in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to drag her to see Foreigner, which is a classic band, again, before your time, Johnny. But, and she's 30 years old, but she knows of them, obviously, but she's gung-ho. She's going to see him with me. But I'm really excited to see Alanis Morissette. So we are going to see her next week. So very, very excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy concerts are back. Like it's incredible. And just being in I was at the Giants game on Sunday, just being in like a
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no. Well, I also want to touch on that too though, because you're a big Giants fan, and Eli Manning's ceremony lasted like 10 minutes long. It was not like a proper tribute to him for everything he did for New York sports.
It's a joke. It's a
joke.
Absolute joke. I'm really I'm glad you were there. But it was awful. I don't even want to talk about the current Giants, but I want to talk about Eli Manning. Honestly, I'll never not be together blue. I'm always a Giants fan since I was a little girl, but it's just not a likable team right now.
Yeah.
The way they got rid of Eli Manning, I hated the way they pushed. First of all, they shouldn't have drafted Daniel Jones as high as they did. And then the way they pushed him on, pushed Eli out and bring Daniel Jones in, that was a mistake. And a lot of the Giants fan base, boy, I thought they were smarter, because all right, the last 2 games, Daniel Jones played good enough, okay enough. If he was on a better team to win, maybe, but it's still not good enough. And it's just a disaster. And Dave Gettleman is just awful. I can't believe he hasn't been fired already. And and I'm sorry, I know Daniel Jones is a great guy and a quiet leader, but he's no Eli Manning. And I don't think this organization, I don't know if they'll ever appreciate what, Eli Manning meant to this franchise, let alone the 2 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Because if it wasn't for him in so many ways, and I'm not just talking about the both Super Bowls, when they, of course, the big upset of the Patriots, both times, but especially that first time, as we all know, I'm talking about the run in the postseason and the moments Eli Manning had where never would have gotten to a Super Bowl without what he did. He's just amazing. The way he took, I mean, again, I'm going, you asked me about the Giants. But that run in the run when, he sent the Patriots to their first loss of the year, when winning the Super Bowl in Arizona, and I was there for that, and I was there for the other big win over the Patriots. But as fan, by the way, I'm always a fan first. I will not cover a game that I care so much about. But that run of that first Super Bowl for Eli Manning and the teams that he beat along the way, the quarterbacks he beat, Tony Romo, right? Brett Favre, right? I mean, it goes on. And then, of course, Tom Brady. And then obviously it continues, the teams he beat in that second go round and the way he escaped and battled against the 49ers in San Francisco when he was knocked to the ground 25, 26 times and each time got back up, fixed his shoulder pads, fixed his jersey, and went on and gutted it out in overtime. I mean, these are the kind of things people forget that Eli Manning did. And 10 minutes, really? Come on, John Mara, be better.
Well, I wanted to go into Henrik Lundqvist's retirement ceremony because for me, not that I was happy that he had to retire on the circumstances he did, but I'm so happy as a Ranger fan, as someone who admired him growing up, that I never had to see him in another jersey. I'm expecting
come close.
Yeah,
close, right?
He did come close, but I'm expecting January 28th to literally be the loudest Madison Square Garden has been, even louder than when they were in the Stanley Cup final. Are you going to be in the building that night?
I hope to be. I am not sure. I'm hoping I'll be sent to cover that, or just be able to go. But you make a strong case because obviously he was beloved. That year I mentioned earlier, 2014, when they surprised everyone and went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. That was all on Henrik Lundqvist. Anyone who's a Ranger fan knows that. That team was challenged in so many areas, but never in goal. And he carried that team on his back. And it's going to be a special night. And it seems kind of strange. And he loves New York. I mean, I can only think of a few athletes over the decades and decades that love New York, even more than the team, than the organization. And that's what Henrik Lundqvist did. He fell in love with New York City and is still in love with New York City. It's truly amazing. That love affair that he has had with this city. So I can't wait for that night. It's going to be special. Yeah, I'll have a box of tissues near me wherever I am watching it.
Same here. Can I ask you 2 more?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I'm also a big NBA fan. I'm a huge Knicks fan. I know you're a Knicks fan as well. And I actually loved last year when they had I think it was 7, 8, 9, 10 playing games for the NBA playoffs. And I think it drew such a good audience.
Yes.
It was because it had a game 7 environment. And with the way the NHL playoffs are set up right now, I hate the division play. I love when it was 1 through 8 and anyone could kind of play anyone within the conference. But something I would love to see is maybe those playing games, because those have game 7 atmospheres, and it'd be so cool to watch, somewhat similar to the NCAA tournament, the playing games to get into that round of 64, but in this case, the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the league I can't speak for Gary Bettman, Bill Daly and everything, but I just think the league, after what they went through the past year and a half with COVID, they wanted to get back to a normalcy, right? Normalcy where it was what the kind of season, the kind of alignment, the kind of playoff strategy or alignment and brackets and all these that we were used to in recent times, right? Pre-COVID. And maybe they'll come around and see more of that and realize, you know what? we'd create more of a buzz for our postseason. And this year begins in May. It doesn't begin in April. It should be interesting.
Yeah, I love that.
I love it because it just gets away from March Madness, even though that's at the beginning of April. But do you know what I mean? Gets rid a little from the NBA. And I don't know what it is. I just think May, because all you have is horse racing and baseball, early season, and NBA playoffs, which you'll always have. Hockey's always up against the NBA playoffs, so it really doesn't matter.
I love watching the Stanley Cup final on July 4th weekend. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that was cool too. Yeah, no, that was cool. But that's, and now it's going to go into, what is it? End of June 30th. Yeah, something like that is the last possible. So that's close. But we'll see. It's, it's still, when you run the league, you just kind of like, let's see if this works. Let's kind of adjust here. But I think that's what this was about. Let's get it back to where we were and then reevaluate.
And just to wrap things up, I got to ask you about one person who I talk about every episode just because he's a friend of mine. But as someone who grew up Jewish on Long Island playing hockey, you know exactly what's coming. But how cool is it for you just to see a kid like Adam Fox grow up in Jericho, Long Island, win the Norris Trophy on the New York Rangers? Like, that's got, like, for me, it's literally a movie script. Like, I can't think of anything better. I don't know if anyone could write anything better. So for you, how cool was that to cover and just to watch?
Yeah, I love him so much. I got to see him and at least talk to him in Chicago on NHL Media Days. I'm so proud of him. I mean, obviously, I'm old enough to be his mom, but that's how I felt, just growing up on Long Island, and all that, and so much in common. And he's such a good kid. And then that's what I loved. Like, we all knew how great a season he had last year, but we know how conservative the league is and how they're not ready to, here, have the greatest award for a defenseman. Yeah. You had one great year and they actually gave it to him. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. He deserved it, but that doesn't mean it's an automatic to get the Norris Trophy, and he won it. And it was so wonderful. And I think he can build on that. And I actually think he would make a great captain for the New York Rangers. And that's who I would vote for, because I don't know how long Chris Kreider's got. And if I'm whoever it is, the team leaders, and, I'd go up to Gerard Gallant. We have our captain, because the head coach, Gerard Gallant, he said he would like to have the team pick a captain. Adam Fox gets my vote.
Wow. That's a bold statement. That's obviously what I'm going to use for a social media clip, because that right there is
nice.
That's a strong statement, and I obviously agree as his friend. So I'd love to see him wear the C.
Tell him I'm a big fan. I already told him I'm a big fan, but I mean, he's just God, what a in a season, right, in a year where Henrik Lundqvist and his jersey is being raised to the rafters, a beloved New York Ranger. And sadly, we lost an all-time great in Rod Gilbert. I mean, isn't it wonderful to see a guy like Adam Fox? I see the leadership. I know he's a baby. I know he's young, but I think tell him Linda Cohn thinks he's ready to put that C on his sweater.
I will happily tell him. But Linda, I want to thank you so much, and I'm so comfortable just saying that I love you. Like, you're awesome. And
thank you.
Hopefully we can meet in person. If I'm ever at the Garden and maybe you're there, I'll shoot you an email or a text or something, and I'd love to meet you and say hi in person, because you're an idol.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Johnny. And I just want to say this before I say goodbye for now, is the fact that I applaud you, because you created your own stage. And I tell young people all the time, they can't worry about what they don't have. You have to go out and make something and create something. And what's the worst that can happen, right? The worst that can happen is like, all right, it didn't really take off or whatever. But you're having fun. You're trying. You're doing something. So if you just stay positive and keep creating this, and it's just, we live in a great world where you can have your own stage like this. So I wish you continued success. Because you're very good and very natural at your interviewing style. And of course, you know the game because you played it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I guess I'm going to ask you one more thing. If I get 10 breakaways on you, how many am I scoring?
Oh my God. I've never seen you play. So I will say you probably will score at this point in my career. Probably you have 10. You'd probably score on 6 of the 10. I swear, I think I could stop 4 of them.
Yeah, you haven't seen me play, though. I think I never scored a shootout goal in my career, so maybe I go over.
Maybe if it was 20 years ago, I'd say I'd stop 9 of 10. Yeah. But since it's not, so I'm going to give you're going to get the majority. You'll score 60% of the time on me.
60% of the time works every time. I'll take that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much,
cool.
Linda.
Thanks, Johnny.